what's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. Time for another hard rock and heavy metal update. Let's just jump into it. Actually, before we get started, what we're listening to in the background, I don't know how loud it is or if you can hear it, but this is Black Rivers Flow from Lazarus AD. Lazarus AD is just a really killer thrash band. They are from Wisconsin. I'm pretty sure it's Wisconsin. They their first album was like 2005, which was self-released. They got picked up in like 2007 or 2008 by Metal Blade for their second album, which is the album that got me turned on to them. And this is their last album from 2011. Last time I looked, they were still technically together, but they released this in 2011. A couple years later, their drummer died. I don't remember what the circumstances were, but it was very unexpected, and they haven't done anything since. They say they're still a band, but I mean, you know, it's been 7 or 8 years since we've seen anything from these guys. Really good thrash band. I happened upon the actually. There's a thrash station that I listen to, a Pandora thrash channel that I listen to at the gym when I'm working out. And I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, their second album, which is called The Onslaught, a couple tracks from that crept into my playlist, and I really dug it. And I love that and this album. I really want to find their first album. It's really hard to find though. That's the only one that never got a major label release, but if you like thrash, I mean, so let's start off with a couple of classics here. This is one I just pulled out to listen to. It's been a while since I heard this. I showed this when I bought this a few years ago. I got this at the KISS convention for really cheap. This is Rock for the King. This is the debut full length from Barren Cross. Just a really killer album. My favorite song on here is Rock for the King, the title track. It kind of reminds me a lot of Southern Cross from Black Sabbath. I don't know what it is. Every time I hear that song, I think of that Black Sabbath track though. Killer vocals. I just always thought these guys were so underrated, especially their first 2 albums. I want to say their first 3, but it's been a long time since I've heard their third album, and I just can't remember it. Next up, we got a couple of EPs. This first one is just a classic. This was on my want list for probably 7 or 8 years now, and I ended up running across it in a local record store 6 or 7 months ago. I've been spinning this quite a bit, but this is Martial Law from Obsession. Only the Strong Will Survive is one of my favorite Obsession tracks, and I've just always loved this EP. And just for Aaron, you've got Matt Carrigus there. Look at that. Look at the mustaches you got going there. Got the 80s porn cheese going. I think this was 82 or 83 as well. This was early Metal Blade. Yeah, I want to say it was 83. It's not, it doesn't say on the back of here though. And another EP, I just pulled this one out to give it another spin. This is Greeting of Death from Deliverance, which was just recently released by Retroactive. This is, I mean, I've talked about this before. This is just really, really killer. And I mean, I love Deliverance, but those first few albums and this EP, that's where it's at. Actually, one more EP while we're talking about it. I went ahead and pulled this one out too. This is the 5988 EP from Metallica. This one's, it's an original pressing. So I've talked about the recent blackened represses from Metallica, and as far as the albums go, I think they sound better all of the black and represses in the original pressings. And I may do a comparison video at some point. I haven't decided yet. That holds true on all the ones I've bought now, except for the 598 EP. I don't like the way the 598 EP sounds. The newly remastered one, it just doesn't sound good to me. The mids are off, and the bass, not the bass guitar, just the bass of the album is just, it's too high for me. I don't like it. And I got about halfway, I pulled that out to listen to, I got about halfway through it, and I took it off and I pulled out this one and listened to this. It just sounds way better. Next up, we are Motorhead. Absolutely love this album. I love this era. I love all eras of Motorhead, but I really like this era of Motorhead in the 90s, and this was 2000, no, 96. The mid-90s to the mid-2000s, he was singing a lot. It wasn't just his normal, I don't want to say his normal scream, but his normal voice. He got more melodic for about a 10-year period there. Not on the whole album, just on a few songs. And I really, I love that sound. And I do. I absolutely love this album. I'm glad that it finally got a repress, and it's a manageable price now. I did mention that my copy of Sacrifice, was it Sacrifice? I can't remember which one. One of the represses that I got didn't sound as good. This one does sound really good. I will say I am disappointed with what's going on with, I don't know if it's Lemmy's family or if it's the label who's doing it. All of the represses that were released before Lemmy's death, the artwork was immaculate. The sound was phenomenal. He kept a real tight rein on that stuff to make sure it sounded good. They've put out a bunch of stuff since then. The photo quality is really bad on the covers. I've had some issues with some of the tracks, not just having semblance in the tracks that wasn't there in the originals. And it's just disappointing to see that they're kind of doing that to his legacy. But still, really happy to have this one. This is one I recommend picking up. Next up, this is one that I missed during Record Store Day. And this is one of those labels that just kind of pulled a scam move. Another label did it with Korn a few years ago, where they said strictly limited, and they were only going to release it for Record Store Day. But then they ended up releasing it with different colors and stuff through their personal website. And this is one of those bands. These were going for like 60, 70 bucks for a while. I won this in a raffle. I think I paid $3 for my ticket. So I was really happy. You can get it for 30 bucks directly from the website, though. It does sound good. I do love this album, so I'm glad to have it. But this is Serial Killer from Green Jello. I've always loved this band. I like their early stuff when they were more of an avant-garde noise rock band. I've just liked all the stuff that they've done. And this album, I could just listen to over and over again. I mean, just Electric Harley, House of Love, and Three Little Pigs. I just love those tracks. It does sound really good, though. I do recommend picking it up. Don't pay the crazy Record Store Day prices, though. You can go to the Say 10 web store and get it. I think it's 30 bucks. Next up, one of my, another EP. I didn't even think about that. One of my favorites of the year. This is one that Kevin sent to me. Thanks again, Kevin. I absolutely love it. This is Mosaic Vision from Haunt. Man, it's been a Haunt kind of year. Haunt is probably the most played band of the year for me, without a doubt. The more I hear from them, the more I like them. I haven't even spun them yet because I need to clean them. But I just got their 2 splits in. Sorry, I got a big old stack of singles here. A Fool's Paradise, which is a split with Fortress, On the Streets Again. I think it's colored vinyl too. Yeah. I don't know how well you can see it. It's pretty cool splatter vinyl though. And then Sea of Dreams. And the other band is Seven Sisters, The Crystal Temple. And you can get these, I think you have to go through their Bandcamp site to get these. So I pre-ordered those a few months ago. They came in a couple weeks ago. I've got a huge stack of singles here that I'm about to clean and you know, give the cleaning treatment and spin. And I've also pre-ordered their new album, which comes out in the first week of February, I believe. I can't recommend Hahn enough. If you like traditional metal, if you like new wave of British heavy metal, Hahn's your band. Super prolific too. Let's see where we're at. Next up, pulled this bad boy out. A little bit of death metal, more on the thrash side. I really dig this album. I think it should have sold better. I know you can still buy copies of it from Rocks. If you like just old school, early 90s death metal, this is the band for you. But this is Reawakening from Final Prophecy. I love that artwork too. And this is number 42 of 150. Next up, I just ran across another copy of this. I keep running across promo copies. I just haven't found one in mint condition yet. I love this album though. Life's a Bitch from Raven. Not much to say. I mean, it's Raven. And then let's see, we'll do two more, and then call it. Try to keep this one kind of short. Next up, a little bit of Mahogany Rush live. Frank Marino. This is actually a Japanese pressing. It sucks that the Obi wasn't there, but I picked this up for like 10 or 11 bucks, so I wasn't going to pass up on it. This is not my favorite live release from Frank Marino. I've heard a couple of CDs. I've got a couple of his CDs live that are much better. Still definitely worth having, especially if you're a Mahogany Rush or Frank Marino fan, though. And then last but not least, this is probably one of the most prolific artists out today. It's insane the amount of stuff that he has put out. This is You Bastard from Professor Black. Professor Black is Chris Black from High Spirits, from Dawnbringer, from Actor. Trying to think what other bands. He's been in a few other bands too. So what this one is I can't remember the name of the band. His first band though, he had wrote a bunch of material. The band ended up splitting up. This is stuff that I think that was his last actual band where it was a collaboration with multiple people. Since then, Dawnbringer and High Spirits, at least for sure, he writes and records everything, and then he has a touring band that he brings on the road with him. This was the last band where he worked with somebody. I guess it split up under bad terms, which may be why he went the route that he's gone since then. But this is stuff that he wrote for that band that was never released. So this is all stuff from like 2013, 2014. Somebody told me it was more on the punk side. I don't think so. It's still heavy metal. It's still Chris Black, what you would expect from him. I don't think this stuff is as good as the stuff he writes with High Spirits, but it's still a really good album. The reason I talk about him being prolific, he released this, was this 2018? Yeah. So in 2018, he released this, and I believe 2 more Professor Black albums. And this isn't stuff, he may have written it previously, but it's all stuff that he wrote, or I'm sorry, that he recorded and released in 2018. So he did this one, which was a 6-song EP. He also did 2 full-length albums. He did some stuff with High Spirits. He's done some EPs along the way too. And I believe he's in the studio doing some Dawnbringer stuff. So this guy just lives, eats, and drinks music, and it's always good. I haven't heard the other 2 Professor Black full lengths, but they are on the want list. I will end up getting them. we'll go ahead and call it quits right here at 15 minutes. Take care, guys, and I'll see you soon.